What is going on, everybody? My name is Jon Solo and welcome to Star Wars 101. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Jawas because I've always found them to be fascinating creatures. They're just little people who roam around the desert, sell scrap, and make goofy noises. But this weekend, I was watching A New Hope and found myself realizing that I don't really know all that much about Jawas, so I started doing some research, and as it turns out, they are way more interesting than I would have thought. Did you know that there's never been a Jawa face reveal in canon? Kind of hard to believe, but it's true. Of course, this hasn't stopped audiences from speculating. One thing that I know a lot of Star Wars fans believe about Jawas, myself included up until recently, is that Jawas are actually rodent-like creatures, but this isn't actually true. The idea stems from some Legends material that describes them as such, as well as George Lucas's initial concept of the species. He ended up throwing the idea out after deciding it was a little too theatrical and went with a much more low-key appearance, black stockings with light bulbs wired on. Unfortunately, with the Disney takeover and their tight grip on canon, this is likely the most we're ever gonna see of their faces. Number 2. Distant relatives. Just out of curiosity, I read up on some Legends material to see if I could find anything solid about the Jawas' appearance, origins, lineage, pretty much anything. As it turns out, there's a lot of possible answers to just about any question you could ask. The downside is a lot of these answers contradict each other. According to xenobiologists who study Jawa corpses, Jawas have gaunt, rodent-like features with shrunken faces and glowing eyes. I like this description the best because it sounds similar to what this face looks like. This is what shows up when you Google what is under a Jawa's hood. Disclaimer, I don't know if that's actually what Jawas are supposed to look like, but what I do know is that I can definitely picture some Jawa speak coming out of that face. Another explanation suggests that Jawas and Tusken Raiders evolved from the same species called Kamunga, as they have similar genetic markers, while others claim the creatures originated from humans. In the end, because this is all Legends, none of it actually matters, but I think it's smart to know some of this stuff as Disney expands on the universe and gradually incorporates bits and pieces of Legends back into canon. Number 3. UTINNI! Their faces may remain a mystery, but their language is iconic, and we have Ben Burtt to thank for that. The sound designer was responsible for writing the Jawas dialogue, and he chose the African language Zulu to base it on. Of course, real Zulu isn't spoken nearly as fast, but all it took was some speeding up in post-production to create the language that brought us beautiful sayings such as MacLeod and it's like poetry. What's especially interesting is that the language we hear the Jawas speak in the movie isn't actually Jawa'ese, it's a dialect called Jawa Trader Talk and is only used when speaking to non-Jawa types. Their actual language uses a combination of both sounds and smells. By emitting specific odors during conversation, Jawas have a better idea of understanding what the other truly means. Number 4. Mobile homes. We've seen firsthand how Jawas get their stock. But have you ever wondered how they get their dope rides? Probably not, but it's a similar process. Those giant machines they roam around in are called sand crawlers and were brought to Tatooine by mining companies that use them to discover ore. When they failed to do so, or when the operations were over, they would be abandoned by the mining companies and the Jawas would come in and repurpose them as massive mobile workshops. Each sandcrawler can hold up to 1,500 scavenged droids as well as entire clans of Jawas. Sidebar, take a look at the Lucasfilm HQ in Singapore. The building was designed to look like a sandcrawler. Number 5. Off to the races. We saw a lot of destruction during the Boonta Eve pod race, and that destruction ends up being pretty lucrative to Jawas. The creatures tend to hang out along the racetrack and arena so they can respond immediately when a pod gets decommissioned. They run up to the destruction, scavenge what materials they can, and sell them to the Tatooine locals for some easy dough. Number 6. Friends and foes. As you can probably imagine, Jawas have made some enemies on Tatooine. Some of them get by with no trouble at all. In A New Hope, you can see them getting along with all of the Mos Eisley locals just fine. However, their size made them easy targets for just about anyone who didn't like having them around. For example, despite having a truce with the Tusken Raiders, the Jawas still did their best to avoid them because of their unpredictable nature. If the two groups ran into each other on the wrong day, it could be a bloodbath. There's also crate dragons, which were considered the apex predators of Tatooine. Many a Jawa found their stories ending as crate dragon dinner. Number 7. Jawa juice. Remember the Dexter's Diner scene from Attack of the Clones? Right after Obi-Wan walks into the joint, a robot waitress rolls up to him and asks if he wants a cup of Jawa juice.
You want a cup of Jawa juice? Oh, yes, thank you.
It's hard to hear the term Jawa juice and not be immediately curious about what exactly that is. To the surprise of some, Jawa juice is not made of Jawa, nor is it made by Jawas. Jawa juice was actually just the nickname that the beverage got because it was first created on Tatooine. It's officially called Artie's and is made of fermented grain and smashed bantha hide. Sounds delicious, right? Number 8. Copyright. Some may say that the iconic appearance of Jawas isn't the most creative design ever. Neil Young might be one of these people. A book titled Star Wars, From Concept to Screen to Collectible, describes Jawas as the focus of one of the strangest copyright infringement cases ever to involve Star Wars. In 1978, the year after A New Hope hit theaters, Neil Young started having robed creatures with glowing eyes, which he referred to as road eyes, accompany him on stage during a tour, on a tour film, and on the cover of his album, Russ Never Sleeps. I'm not sure which exact company was responsible for the lawsuit. I don't know if it was Lucasfilm or 20th Century Fox or George Lucas himself. Whoever it was, the case ended up getting decided out of court, and Neil Young never used road eyes ever again. Number 9. DATHCHA. DATHCHA's official existence may only be within legends, but as the most famous Jawa of all time, I felt like he should be mentioned. DATHCHA was a member of Chief Nebit's tribe and is best known as the Jawa who shot R2-D2 at the beginning of A New Hope, but he's no stranger to stealing things other than droids. Remember how the bartender on Tatooine had a very strict no droids policy? Something that he used to enforce that policy was an EPT-212 droid detector. It scanned for frequencies specific to droid wireless systems and power cell oscillations. DATHCHA, being a fan of droids and not so much a fan of this rule, decided to steal the droid detector because Jawa logic. The bartender, Wooher, ended up having to hire a local spacer to track down DATHCHA and get the EPT-212 back from him, which he did by force. What I mean by that is he knocked DATHCHA unconscious, took the detector off of his unconscious body, and left him out in the desert somewhere. Sometime after this is when DATHCHA and his homies came across R2 and 3PO, sold them to Uncle Owen, and then were brutally massacred by stormtroopers. It's a hard knock life for a Jawa. Number 10. JawaCon. This may come as a surprise to some, but Jawas actually have a very strong sense of community. Once a year, every single Jawa clan will make a trip across the massive deserts of Tatooine to join together, swap salvage, and trade stories about their adventures. We don't know much else about the meetup, but in my opinion, this is the most interesting thing I came across about Jawas. I just love the idea. I picture it as a sort of Jawa-themed hybrid of Comic-Con, Star Wars Celebration, and Burning Man. So if I ever get an invitation, you can count me in. And that will do it for this episode of Star Wars 101. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned yourself a little something. If you did like this video, be sure to click that like button down below, share it on both Facebook and Twitter, subscribe for weekly Star Wars content, and comment any ideas you have for future episodes of Star Wars 101. I also got links to my Twitter, Facebook fan page, and Patreon in the description down below. Go check those out if you're interested for some reason. Thank you all so much for watching. In case you forgot, my name is Jon Solo. May the Force be with you, and remember, Jon shot first.